live on Airplane 21 with a special edition, Determined Women, hosted by Connie Kepfinger.
Welcome to Determined Women, and thank you, our wonderful producer, Rachel. And thank you, Joe Eisen, for that great theme music. Welcome to Determined Women. Our very special guest today is an award-winning performer, lyricist, librettist, composer, author, comedienne, and is currently developing a musical inspired by her own life. I have my co-hosts with me today. They're going to tell you a little bit about her background. So sit tight, listen, and then we're going to get up close and personal with Karen. Whoops, go ahead. Brandy.
Yes. So as you said, our guest today is Karen Hartman. She's a writer, voiceover performer, singer, actress, comedian, composer, lyricist, librettist, and designer. She started out as an opera singer, winning the prestigious Metropolitan Opera Auditions on the West Coast. Unable to keep a straight face with opera, she wrote a stand-up act and decided to get into the comedy world. While at world-famous Comedy Store in Los Angeles, she developed a 1.5-woman show, Diva Takes a Jive, which she toured around the country. Karen has written and performed musical theater, comedy material, music, and lyrics for several musicals, HBO Comedy Specials, Showtime, and nationally syndicated television. She's appeared and starred in many movies and television series. She's also written and composed for the Emmy Award-winning children's television show, Zoobilee Zoo, in which she starred as a half-human cockatoo with Ben Vereen. Karen is a proud member of the Dramatists Guild, National Board of Review, Actors Equity Association, Screen Actors Guild, and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. She's also the honored winner of Caroline's Comedy Competition as the funniest woman in America and LA First Class as the best of the best.
And
Karen lives, loves, and laughs with her husband in New York City and is currently developing a new rock and opera fusion musical inspired by her true story, Rock Me Mama. Redefines the word diverse. She is a lyricist, librettist, composer, singer, comedian, actor, artist, voiceover performer. She headlined at world-famous Comedy Store, Las Vegas, Los Angeles, the Improv, Caroline's, New York City. Her 1.5-woman show, Diva Takes a Dive, was on national tour. She authored and performed a speaking and singing book called Birdland. Dancing with Abandon, her musical theater piece, was performed and won an award of excellence at New York Fringe Festival, full production, won developmental production multi-stages with artistic director Lorca Perez, semi-finalist Eugene O'Neill Musical Theater Conference. Writer, lyricist, composer, co-star Emmy Award-winning television show Zoobilee Zoo, Showtime special comedians, Mapletown, Nickelodeon. Creative consultant, designer, writer on Entertainment Tonight, CNN, Pasadena Playhouse, College of Theater Arts, Beverly Hills Theater Alliance Awards, Metropolitan Opera National Council winner, first place winner in Caroline's classical comedy competition, The Funniest Woman in America.
Yay!
Welcome, Karen.
So happy to have you today, Karen. Thank you, Brandy. Thank you, Carrie. We'll see you soon. And let's get into this. Wowie zowie, Karen, you are something else. Really, this is really a treat for us to hear your story, because not only are you quite an amazing artist of such incredible character, but you're an amazing human being.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure, my pleasure. Tell us what brought you into the world of theater.
Oh, wow, my favorite subject. I was brought into the theater in my heartbeat. As soon as that heart started going, I was in theater. Maybe I didn't know it at the time, but I knew it at the time. You know, it's in my DNA. And I you know, my sister would say, oh, you know, you always have to be the life of the party. You have to be the center of attention. You have to have everybody love you. It's in my DNA. I can't help it. I really have to be loved by everyone, I think. But that's not the real reason. When I was a little girl, I would sing and dance, probably just like you and every one of us. And people would say, oh my gosh, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I said, well, I'm going to be a singer and a dancer, and that's what I'm going to be. And they said, how do you know? And I said, well, I just know. You know, a little child just knows. And then as that little child grows up, that knowing place that is free from doubt and fear and rejection and everything, it just grows and grows. But then something happens, that rejection or whatever, it comes in and you get a lot of no's, a lot of no's. And something in me changed in the sense that my mind became more fearful. Well, maybe I'm not going to make it, or maybe I'm not good enough, or who loves me, or maybe I should do what they're doing, or, you know, and it was terrible that these things would rob me of my life. It went from I know to I struggle. So I would struggle. It became struggling. And every time I would struggle, I would fix it. And then I'd be happy. I'd get a job, I'd get, you know, a pat on the head or whatever. And then it would go away again. And then I'd get a job and it would go away again. So I struggled a lot. And so I learned how to pretend. I learned that people would love me if they really didn't know who I was. This insecure person who I became, full of fear and doubt. And I tried to hide it. I lived in fantasy till a long time elapsed. Now that fear and that doubt and those feelings have to go somewhere. So along the line, when I didn't have a soothe mechanism anymore, it's kind of a scientific thing, that fear and that doubt turns into pain. And that pain goes into the body, somewhere in the body, in your unconscious. And it turned into pain after pain after pain, doctor after doctor after doctor, medicine after medicine, fentanyl patches, morphine, nothing worked for me. I was still in pain. Surgeries. I had, you know, needles this big injected into my body to try to find the pain.
What's true? Fear, doubt, worry can make you sick. It retards you. You know, it just makes.
Well, what you keep bottled up, there's no soothe mechanism anymore.
Right.
Because it overcomes the fear
Mm-hmm.
and the doubt and the worry, unless you express it to someone. Well, this is what I'm really feeling. I'm really feeling sad. I'm really feeling grief. I'm really feeling less than. Unless you are allowed to express that to someone, you keep it locked in. You can't be authentic. You can't be who you really are. And that's what happened for me. I met a doctor in New York finally, after being unable to walk, in a wheelchair or completely on my back for 5 years.
Jeez, 5 years.
5 years. I was in one room in a hospital bed, had done everything to me. And I hope this reaches everybody, because talk about determination. I didn't have that thing to wake up to every morning. I didn't have the heartbeat. I lost the knowing place. And I finally met a doctor, but the doctor wouldn't see me unless I lived in New York. I lived in California. So after I read his book, I see that there are a certain type of person that has this. It's called attention myositis syndrome. And a lot of things today are fibromyalgia. Things go into your body, restless leg syndrome, so many. I mean, I'm not a doctor. He was a regular Western doctor who said that things aren't working right. You know, the MRI should say you should have a lot of pain, and the people didn't have pain. And the people that had a benign MRIs, practically nothing, had horrible, devastating, life-threatening pain because of the anxiety. Well, finally I got better, and my husband and I was able to take a flight, and we came to New York, and I met the man that wrote the book. This famous doctor. He saved John Stossel and Bancroft. Howard Stern talks about him every day on his television, on his wherever he is now.
The doctor's name?
And he sent me to, I was like a poster child for pain. And he sent me to someone, and she was my teacher. And I had a whole script that I could, well, what am I supposed to be thinking? What she goes, just be wherever you are.
Mhm.
Be in the moment.
Yes.
And that is what I said. And that's what made me determined. And she said, write your music, write more.
Mhm.
Whatever it is, get out of that. I'm sorry I blabbed so long, but I'm thinking, oh my gosh, maybe.
Definitely hear you. When I was in college, I found out I had a scoliosis in my spine, and my
Yeah.
disc were herniated, and I couldn't walk. I took a really rigorous movement class, movement for actors, and I landed in the hospital. I had 2 orthopedics tell me, you can never get pregnant. Don't get pregnant. You can never carry a child. You can't carry a child. And when I was about 25, I decided I'm going to take yoga. And I took yoga, and yoga is all about the moment. That's where we get to heal ourselves. We heal ourselves in the moment. So I hear you. I have 2 children, and one was born on your birthday,
Great. Well, I think it's like trying to, they make so many diagnoses, and they may not be true, or they may not, they're doing the best they can.
Absolutely.
I was one of the very, very lucky people who met Dr. Sarno, and he was way, way ahead of his time.
And we're really lucky that he did help you, because we have had so much wonderful work from you. Tell me, when did you realize that theater and the arts was your passion?
Well, after I couldn't, it was my passion always, but I went into something else. I thought, well, I'll go into something else. And I got into design work, and I did some television work, and because I have that other side of me that likes to create sculpture. And we were the first, my husband and I started a business. It was called the first Airbnb, kind of, where movie stars who lived in California would come in, and they wanted a place that was completely private. So I would interview the stars. We had gotten to know quite a few people, managers and stuff. I would interview them or their managers, and I would custom make a place for them to go for several months, and not a hotel. The colors they loved. I painted colors they loved. I had furniture that they liked, the type of furniture they liked. And everything was just to what they would love. And I created gifts also. We had many people, I don't know if you're allowed to drop names, but we had, I did work for Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, Matt Damon. And okay, so there I was with the stars. I was a star, and being a creative consultant on television shows and in Style magazine as the landlady to the stars. And it didn't do it for me. It just didn't do it. It didn't do, the heartbeat wasn't going again. Go ahead.
Tell us about your claim to fame that everybody knows about, being on Zoobilee Zoo as Cockatoo, and being the voice of the mom in the Rugrats. I mean, these are icon characters. And tell us what it felt like doing that.
Well, Zoobilee Zoo, it was very, very hard work. It was over the summertime. And we had to create these characters. We were entertaining, we were enlightening, and we were the first musical theater on television.
Yeah.
We did 65 episodes in you know, in a short period of time, I had to wear a costume that looked like a piñata. I had feathers, and we had kids that would come on the show. They pull my feathers, but we basically created a village where people help each other out, where people are conscious. She was a musician. I was a word bird. There was an Art Van Gogh, was an artist. And we were a family. We were a family, and we had problems, and we worked everything out. I loved mostly being, I loved it. And to this day, we have a wonderful fan club.
Oh, cool.
And I got to be what I was really not.
Mhm.
You know, I got to create something, but inside I still had, you know, a longing. I don't know what it was. I don't know if you have it, Connie. There's always, I think that's what makes us so determined. I want to do more. I want to do more. I want more. That's not enough. You want to grow. You want to grow as an artist.
Absolutely.
And yes,
I said absolutely.
yeah. You want to grow as an artist, and even though that was enough, and that was being, it still didn't hit me of just seeing that show.
So you went from opera to television. Is that kind of the path? And musical theater too?
Right. I did On a Clear Day, and I did West Side Story, and some of the greatest time in my life was in West Side Story. It was an equity show. It was in San Diego, and it was in a bowling alley. I never was a good bowler. I tried that too, along working in a men's store, but I happened to be Maria. And I'm still Maria. We went to the opening in New York, and I met somebody. I met my Tony, and I fell completely and madly in love the very first day I met him. He had great lips, you know, I was focused in on these lips, and a voice that was so unbelievable.
Wow.
A tenor voice that has balls, you know, a tenor voice that is out of this world. I fell madly in love with him, and I've been married to him now for 40, well, we're together 42 years, 43 years.
Wonderful.
And we had to move to New York because of the problem with the walking. And I fell in love with New York City.
Wonderful.
I fell in New York City and theater.
It's a great place. It's a great place. Tell us, going back through all your memories and things, tell us what kind of advice could you give? What would you give newcomers in the industry? What was one of the biggest things that you grabbed by the horns and maybe got through, or something that really, any kind of advice that really sticks there that can help young people?
Well, I would say, do you like the business of rejection? You love the business of rejection, because if you do, come on in, you know, it's for you. If you like the word no, and I had to learn that. I had to learn that it's not a no, and it's not a rejection, and you move out of there as fast as you can. I had to learn, and I didn't know this, that it's not about me. I'm a commodity. I'm a product, and I have to get my product out. And I'm not ashamed of that product. You look at the windows of Saks Fifth Avenue at one time, Bergdorf and H&M, and all, they have windows. And you can see in those windows, you can see all the goods. That's what I mean. You have to get your goods out, no matter where. And you have to be ready.
Absolutely.
And most of all is, don't listen. If you have that in you, and you say, well, I'll try to do this. I think people that are in the theater, and it's such hard work, that there's nothing else you can do. It wasn't enough for me to have Justin Timberlake or to see around beach. I had to be in it. It pulsates through me. And unless it does, so I keep going on and on.
Playwrights, it's even harder. I mean, at least now it's easier because you can send things online electronically. I mean,
Yeah.
I graduated with a Smith Corona. You know,
Yeah.
you had to bind your scripts and send them out and print them out and everything's perfect. And then I'll never forget, the hardest one I ever got was, thank you for your script. It was a real letter, hard letter, came and I said, thank you for your script, but we're just going to put it in the shredder, okay?
I know it.
I know what you mean. It's like my partner, Joe Eisen, he said that, he was going to give up one time. He's an amazing musician, singer, songwriter, playwright, and he's just amazing. And he's had a very illustrious career. But early on, he said to a friend of his, I think I'm going to quit this and do something else. And his friend said, what would you do? And it's like, yeah, really, what would we do? I'm a playwright.
Yeah.
My story goes back to something when I was a little girl. I was allergic to 48 out of 52 shots, allergies. I was allergic to air, pollen, weeds, grass, flowers, everything. And so my sisters would play outside and I would sit in my mother's dining room and look out the casement windows. And so I think I just developed a stage for myself, and I would make up, when the other kids would play in my yard, I would just make up stories of whatever they were doing. And I'd say, she's this and she's this and she's the countess, and then by the time I was in third grade, I started writing plays, so
Yes.
nothing else. And people say to me, I mean, I took all the classes, acting and scene design and stuff, like a general theater degree. And and then I tried to get out of it. And when I turned 40, I said, I'm going to go back. And I went back to Carnegie Mellon and I went to get my master's degree in literary and cultural theory. And I became a professor and I enjoyed myself. And I was teaching Ibsen, Strindberg, Shaw, Chekhov, and along with writing courses, lit courses. And I just kept going, I can't do this. I got to get back up there. I got to get back up to New York and do my thing. And I can't do this. I don't want to push somebody else's writing. I need to do my thing.
Yeah.
And I had my own company for a while, but it kills you. It kills you. You just sit there and say, I love you, Chekhov, but I can't do this. It's not in me. And so I know exactly what you mean.
So what did you do?
Well, I went back up to New York and I started working in New York in the 90s. And then I taught for 10 years. And then in 2010, I went back up full time. And I just started pounding on doors and getting a following and starting to get people, So it was interesting, very interesting. But let's get back to you because you're the star.
My favorite subject.
It's wonderful. It's mine too now. Tell us, what is your fondest memory in theater? I mean, give us a story. We got to have a story.
Well, there's so many.
It is the one with
I'd have to go back and say my fondest memory in theater was in West Side Story, when we were in that bowling alley that turned into an equity theater, and I kissed my husband to be. Wow. That is the greatest, because I've learned at a much later state, not just a few years ago, that you've really got to have a lot of self-esteem. How do you get that? You get rid of that script that says you can't or you can't. Mm-hmm. You got to let it go.
Right.
I don't care where it goes, but it can't be there.
Yeah.
Because it robs you of those moments. It will rob you of your whole life.
Wow.
Because you're still going to have it, being in the theater and being creative. You're still going to have all these thoughts. You're still going to have it. So you have to let go of things that are not working for you. Yeah. What works for you is the sense that I am enough, that I've got it. My problem was that the self-degradation that I had was so much that it created me as an invalid,
Mhm.
and I became an invalid. So
Absolutely.
the most important thing is that you know that you've got a product, and nobody, I mean, we see wonderful people that have succeeded. They
Mhm.
don't have as much talent as hundreds of other people.
Mhm.
Why is that? Because for some reason, they've learned how to market themselves
Absolutely. And believe in yourself.
and believe in yourself. But how do you believe? How do you love yourself? What is, people say, well, you got to love yourself. You know, how do you love yourself? It's a script that we have.
It all goes.
That little girl got the script that you're not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you have to rewrite the script for yourself, the script that says, listen, I got this, I got that, I got this, I got that. Every night, write a gratitude list. I'm grateful I don't have, things didn't come along. I don't know if you're mentioning the times that we're in now, but it took me my whole life before I remembered, because so many things happened in my life. Actually, I'm writing a show now, which is about inspired from my true life. I was a teenager, and I'd have to say in the 60s, that's how far back I was. There were about over 1.5 million young girls who got pregnant during these times when you were considered a whore, you were considered bad, you were an unwed mother, and you had to be put away. You never had any chances to make it in any theater. This was my lesson in life. And so I proceeded through life, even though I wanted to be in the theater, I had that stigma and that shame of having this child. And when you were sent away, you couldn't give your name. You couldn't speak to anybody. Nobody knew who you were. You were illegitimate. Your child was illegitimate. And you couldn't speak you couldn't be authentic. So I started creating this other story to myself. And I realized that guilt and that shame can take over your whole life. And so as I've been writing this and getting this on its feet, right now it's called Rock Me Mama. I had to give this little child away because they said that was better for the child. That was better for, I didn't have any money. I didn't have any hope of anything. So they took away over 2 million children were told that they were sent away to convents and told that they were no longer good enough for life.
And
So I had that with me my entire life until a few years ago when I worked for it, that my value, that you do what you can, that we're not perfect. The idea that you've got to be perfect is right out the door. I'm perfectly imperfect. And to value that, and now it's, we're doing a reading, and I've written a lot of music and demos and have some wonderful people attached to it. Not only that, but this goes on and on and on. The society banning these children, and their children were called bastards. They couldn't. So you're doing that. We were told by people in those days that you were doing the best thing that you could. You couldn't raise that child. You had to give that child away so they could raise it. They could send it to college. They had enough money, but not you. So I grew up hidden in secret my whole life.
Aww.
And I think that's what really stopped me from having the fullness and the richness that I wanted.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I had an incident myself when I was very young and 14 years old, and it does in society, especially then. Now things are changing, but we're coming out into the world with truth. And the truth is, we're all human beings. We're all connected. We're all one. We all have blood. We all breathe the air. The air I breathe out is the air you breathe in, right? So this is the truth. And that's why I think your story is so important. There is no bastard child. There is no, a baby. How could you, like, anybody? I mean, even the like hardcore Christians, Jesus said, he who welcomes a child welcomes me. I mean, what, don't these people get it? So
Yeah.
Karen, whatever you did and whatever you're doing now, I totally champion you for this, because it is about life is sacred. All life, everyone's life. It's not about you can't do this. Why can't you do this? So you are a young mother. Let's look back in history. We had 14-year-olds. We had 12-year-olds having babies, back in the old days. It just doesn't make sense. And the whole thing of shaming somebody, body shaming people, and shaming people into their own identity. It's ghastly. And that's why half our world is going crazy. And
Right.
Yeah,
it's what you say exactly. Freedom is what? The freedom is in the truth.
absolutely.
The freedom is in being authentically who you are.
Absolutely.
All of you, with your grief and your sadness and your jealousy. It's all part of being human.
Absolutely.
We're human.
Yeah.
And to have all those feelings is that I tried to squash those things in my life, to put them on that I was happy and I was always happy and I'm happy and sad, that we're not free. We're in a prison, and we might as well not be able to walk.
Mm-hmm.
Because those feelings of sadness and grief, they should be honored. They should be honored.
Absolutely.
Because that's what sets us free from them taking over and robbing our lives.
Samuel Beckett said, the tears of the world are a constant quantity. Every time somebody cries, another one stops crying, another starts, and the same is true of the laugh. It just keeps going. And that's the truth. That's what we need to look at. That's what we need to listen to, not conditionings that somebody makes up and puts on us, So
I know.
I totally applaud you. We're just,
Thank you.
and I totally
And you too.
for this wonderful interview. I'm sure it's going to inspire many, many women, old and in between. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Connie, for having me. I loved it.
Thanks. Well, thank you all. Thank you all for joining us.
Thanks for all the girls.
Yes. And thank you.